To discuss with our insider today, Chris Johnston. No time for pleasantries, CJ. And let's start with the Canadian government, who is expected to help Canadian NHL teams by reducing players' quarantine from 14 days to 7 days ahead of the trade deadline. How much will this help Canadian buyers come and before April 12th?
Well, it sounds like it's going to be pretty significant. You know, at least that's sort of the initial reaction that I've been getting, Carolyn, and talking to some people involved here. And look, time is very much ticking for teams like the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Winnipeg Jets, a couple of others across the country that are at least looking to add before this trade deadline. And it's not just the 7 days they're getting that's reduced in terms of the quarantine time. It's also the time on the back end then that the player would need to get ready before going in the lineup. I do think that this gives them a little bit more of a window to get these trades done. And let's not forget as well that there's a few players out there that hold full no-move clauses, and a couple of them were believed not to really be interested in a 14-day quarantine. Well, maybe the fact that now it's a 7-day quarantine, you might be able to entice someone to waive to come up and play for one of these Canadian teams.
We've heard the rumors, but why has the trade market been so slow thus far?
Well, I think that there's not enough separation in some cases. You know, I look at the Central Division as a classic example of that, where both the Nashville Predators and Columbus Blue Jackets have climbed their way right back to the edge of playoff contention in that division. They're two of the teams with the most number of players, assets that I think are drawing attention on this trade market. And so, you know, I think that they've pulled back a little bit. It's not to say that they won't end up trading some players before April 12th, but they want to see how their season plays out here and see perhaps if that climb continues. I mean, in the case, say, of the New Jersey Devils, they have Kyle Palmieri out there, who certainly has drawn some interest, but they haven't given up the fact that they might sign him yet. And so, you know, I think we just haven't got to the point where the sellers have been incentivized enough to start the trading. And, you know, I'm one of the optimists. I think we're going to see a fair bit of movement, but we got to get a little closer to April 12th before it starts. And
it's a safe bet that the Buffalo Sabres will be sellers. Their winless streak is now at 15 games, and they just got more bad news.
They did. Kevin Adams has a lot on his plate. You know, namely, he's coaching in Pittsburgh, unfortunately for the Sabres, after Don Granato, their interim head coach, and Matt Ellis, their interim assistant coach, both had to enter COVID protocol on Thursday afternoon. Now, this situation was developing so quickly that Seth Appert, their American Hockey League coach in Rochester, wasn't even sure if he'd make it in time for puck drop in Pittsburgh as he got down to try to join Kevin Adams on the bench. So, you know, they're bailing water in Buffalo in a lot of different ways, and unfortunately, COVID has affected where they're at right now.
As for the Montreal Canadiens, Yoel Armia and Jesperi Kotkaniemi are still the only two Montreal Canadiens players on the COVID protocol list. Why was the NHL so quick to shut them down for the week?
Well, there's a couple things here. I think it's good news that they're the only two currently on the list, because part of what was supposed to happen in these few days is the players stay apart. They continue to get tested, and the league gets a sense if there's an outbreak situation in Montreal. And I think the other one that's most important here is that the player who tested positive for the Canadiens is believed to have the UK variant of the COVID-19 strain. And that one is far more transmissible than other variants that have gone around. And so, you know, I think that explains why it was only one positive player test that you know, set the league into high alert, forced them to postpone 4 games and have the Canadiens stay away from their practice facility for a week, because obviously they want to try to prevent an outbreak if at all possible.